You don't need my introduction, you know that. Now, also I apologize, this is an Ashkenazi saying a shiur for Sfaradim, so I'm not fully aware of all the Sfaradim Sfa'ot in this, which I'm sure Rabbi Levi Chaim can fill in with. So this is an Ashkenazi perspective, perhaps, on a certain issue. Nowadays, we know there are many different kinds of oils and different ways to light menorot. A lot of advanced technology is bringing us all sorts of different kinds of oil. In Eretz Yisrael, you have things called like shemen lamaor, oil that's only fit for lighting, but not fit for eating. And also hardened oils now. You have in the little cups oil that's olive oil that doesn't spill, it's hard until it melts. So all these kind of things, just discuss, is there any hidurim, any preference in what we use and how we use. Now, the Mechaber Paskins in Siman Tafresh Ayin Gimel, he says, based on the conclusion of the Gemara, that one can use any kind of oil or things that light, even if it's not such a good light, even that is the conclusion of the Gemara. It's the sheet, the opinion of Rabbi Zera, that even things that we cannot use to light with for Shabbat, we can go ahead and use to light with for Hanukah, because of certain technical issues of Hanukah, which is not the discussion at this point. But the Mechaber says, any oil you want, you can use, even if it doesn't make such a good flame, even if it flickers, even if it might go out, it has to be enough oil to use, but for the shiur of 30 minutes, but otherwise, you yell to any oil. That's the halacha of the Mechaber and Maran, Beit Yosef. The Ramah adds, he says that mihu, it's a mitzvah lechatchila, it's a preference to use shemen zayit, and he quotes the Mordechai and the Kolbo and the Mariel. Mariel certainly was the father of all Ashkenazi minhagim. If you look inside in the Mariel, he doesn't give a reason, it just says that that's what he used to light, shemen zayit. The Mordechai also really doesn't indicate even a preference for shemen zayit when he discusses which oils to use. He just says that the Maram Yerutenberg, a big German Rav Rishon, he went ahead and he used to use olive oil, but he's not even discussing the kind of oil, just discussing a different topic. The Kolbo does say that the reason why shemen zayit, olive oil, is preferable is because Shabo Naaseh Hanes, because for this kind of oil, the miracle of Hanukah occurred, and therefore, even though we're certainly fulfill the mitzvah by lighting with any oil, as the Mechaber Paskins based on the conclusion of Gemara, but still there is a preference for shemen zayit, because by this way, we give more pirsum and publicization of the miracle, because people see shemen zayit. We remember that the menorah, they only had the one canister of shemen zayit of olive oil, and we remember better. So therefore, it's a hidur. Certainly, one fulfills the mitzvah without it, but it is a preference. So go ahead and use shemen zayit for this reason. That's what it says in the Ramah, and the reason given in the Kolbo. So now, but the Ramah continues. He says, but if you don't have shemen zayit, if it's not possible to get shemen zayit, it wasn't always. Nowadays, when you get anything you want in the store, but it wasn't always possible. You didn't live in a region where there was olives growing, so you didn't necessarily have a chance to get shemen zayit. You should use any shemen, any oil that is orozach, that gives a clear, nice flame. That's the hidur. Then the preference then would be embellishment of the mitzvah would go together and use and give something that gives a clear flame. And he says our minig, the minig then in Germany, when and in Poland and Krakow, the minig was to go ahead and use wax candles, sha'ava, because they gave also a nice flame. Since they couldn't get shemen zayit, that's what they used. The Mishnah Berurah points out from the Chuvas Mari Brin that certainly what the Ramah means is that he's only discussing when you can't get olive oil. But if you could get olive oil, that's preferable to wax candles or something else, even though they give a clear flame, because they have, again, the added value that the Kolbo says, because Shabbat Naseh Hanes, because that's what you did the miracle with, as we know. Now, the Maralmi Prague, which we don't go ahead and follow his minhag, but the Maralmi Prague said that let's say you can't get shemen zayit, it's preferable to use oil over wax. Oil over wax. Why? Because the nace was done with oil. So even though it wasn't done with soybean oil, or corn oil, or canola oil, or or sesame oil, whatever kind of oil you might have, but still we basically have some zeicher, some recollection of that it's oil. So it's not a full recollection, it's a half recollection, the Rami Bach says, but the Mishnah Berurah brings down the Shar Tziyun that we don't, the custom is not to follow this morale. In other words, or it's all the way, that it's a recollection that the miracle was done with the Shem and Zayit, with olive oil, or there are no half recollections. It's oil, oh yeah, it was oil, it wasn't olive oil. Soy oil has no preference over wax, we don't go with the morale practice. In other words, full recollection, or nothing at all. That's the question. Okay? That's the halakha, that's the minhag. Now, nowadays, there are, how do we make oil nowadays? It's good to know, we discussed before, we had different Hiburim and Shem and Zayit, different preferences in Shem and Zayit. How is Shem and Zayit made? Basically, Shem and Zayit is made today with a little more advanced technology, but the same technology that's been used for thousands of years. How do we know what technology was used? Because all archaeological digs, anyone who's been to Eretz Yisrael and gone a little touring, just about any place you go, there's some remnant of a Roman olive press, Roman era olive press. It's basically always the same idea. Same idea basically goes on today. And some people even use the same system as well. At first what they did is they ground the olives and they made a mash out of the olives. There's always a big stone that goes around in that circular thing for those who've seen it. Ground up the olives, and after that they would take this paste and they would lay it onto wicker circles, something like that, and they'd layer, stack them up, and then take some kind of screw press and push it down, and the oil came out filtering through the wicker things, and the leftovers of the olives, which we call gefet, that remnants would stay behind, the olive oil would move out, filter through, maybe they do a little more filtering, and then you'd have your olive oil. Very simple process. Nowadays, they haven't advanced it much. Same idea, you crunch it, and then you squeeze it out, some kind of filtering. Nowadays they might use a centrifuge, which is a machine that goes very, very fast to separate out, but the idea is the same more or less. They have some chokhmot, some ideas how to get the olive oil out of the mush in some different ways, but that's the idea basically. Grind it. Now, there's one more point that's important to know as we explore the different kinds of oils and see whether there's preferences or not, and that is that the oil inside the olives is in little tiny droplets. It's not like you squeeze an olive like an orange and it comes out the orange juice. You don't squeeze an olive and out comes the olive juice, which happens to be olive oil. It doesn't go like that. You take an olive and you go ahead and you crunch it, and basically the drops are so small that they don't come together. You can't squeeze them out. That's why you have to press them like that. But also, what they do is they let it sit in this paste for like 30-45 minutes, and that gets the taste and the bouquet, the smell that we associate with olive oil, comes out from that 30-45 minutes. Why? Because once you crunch the meat of the fruit, of the olives, then the enzymes that are inside the fruit get activated, like any other fruit you have. That's why anytime a fruit gets bruised, it starts to spoil, because the enzymes are activated, they're released, and they start eating up the fruit. Also here, it starts eating up the olives, and that gives the taste, the special taste and special rayat, smell, that we know associated with olive oil comes from that. Meaning, we'll come back to this point soon, and it's important that olive oil itself doesn't really have the taste and the smell that we associate with olive oil. That taste and smell comes from after it lets it sit and develop in this fruit, but that's not really, it's an acquired taste. It's not acquired from the store, it's not acquired from a peach, but it's acquired from the meat of the olive, but that is not really the olive oil. That's olive oil plus, and we'll see why this is important soon. But that's olive oil plus the taste it got from the meat of the fruit. But if I would just take the straight olive, it would not have that taste, it would not have that same, whether it would have the same color or not, the same greenish color. Obviously we know there are different grades and different colors, some more green, some less green, but how much color it gets, that I didn't find when I researched it. I didn't know how much color is acquired from the meat of the fruit and how much color is natural, how much green. Don't know, but certainly the taste and the smell, the bouquet, is acquired from the fruit. Now we'll see why that's relevant. Now,
Excuse me, when you say extra virgin or...
we're going to come to that. We're coming, and now, in the process here of taking this and crunching it and extracting it, that's called virgin olive oil. If the acidity, the chamitzut, if the acidity is 2%, 2.5% or less, then that's virgin olive oil is fit for eating. If it's less than 1% or 0.8%, different places have different standards, then that's called extra virgin olive oil. Meaning the difference between virgin and extra virgin just means how little acidity it has. If it has less than 1% or so, that's called extra virgin. If it has less than 2% or so, that's called virgin. If it has more than 2%, meaning there was something wrong with the olives, they got more mechumas, they became more acidy. How can that be? Because once olives reach maturity, then the acid process starts to develop. They start spoiling like any other fruit. Certainly once they're pulled off, they're not growing anymore, that process starts. The longer they're off the tree, or the longer they've reached maturity and haven't been plucked, they get more acid. Also depends on many environmental factors, but if it's more than 2% or 2.5%, that's not considered fit for eating. That's okay then to be what we call lamp oil, shemen lamaor, because it doesn't make a difference when you light the candle how it's going to taste, right? Who cares? So that's perfectly fit for that. You can market it like that. If you want to market it for food, then you have to refine it. And when you refine it, that's called refined olive oil. What does refining do? Refining, they use different materials, not chemicals, but different materials to take away the bad color. Sometimes it has a bad color. To take away the bad smell. Sometimes it got a little rancid, it got a little spoiled, it oxidizes it. To take away the chamitzut, the extra acid. And by the time you're done, you're left with an oil that has no tom, no taste, and no smell, and no color. Completely clear oil, but it's still, in its makeup, in its chemical makeup, it's still olive oil. It's still the same chemical structured olive oil, but it's missing the taste, and it's missing the smell, and it's missing the color. That's refined olive oil. They can refine bad olive oil, or they can also take the gefet, the pomace, and refine and extract from there. There they have to use a solvent called hexane to do the extraction. But after that, they also go through the refining process. That's called refined pomace oil. So you have virgin oil means it didn't go through a refining process, and it has still the smell and the taste and the color. We have refined oil, and then it got everything taken away. That's the different, basically. There are more grades, but that's the short version. Okay, now, let's see. What do they used to use for the menorah? What do they used to use for the menorah? We know it says in the Torah that they had to use zoch and they had to use kotit. Kotit lamaor, cut for lighting, and they had to use zoch, clear oil. What does that mean? The Mishnah Menachos says that there are 9 different grades of oil. 9 different grades of oil. And basically there are 3 processes, and there are 3 different kinds of oil. The first oils to ripen on the top of the tree because they get the most sun, that's called type 1 olives. That's the best kind. Then there's a second batch of olives that ripen. They're the ones lower down that don't get the sun. Once you clear off the top ones, they ripen. That's type 2 olives. And then they're the ones that are never going to ripen on the tree, and you have to pull them off and put them in a pit inside and let them kind of like spoil together and then you have to take them up to the roof and dry them off from everything that came out that isn't good, and then they're ready for pressing. That's type 3 olives. So you have 3 kinds of olives. And then the 3 kinds of processes. One, you just cut the olives, put them in a basket and let them drip. That's type 1 process. Another one is you take the olives and you put them underneath a pile of stones or underneath a board that you kind of like, again, the screw press method a little bit. That's type 2 process. Type 3 process is then you go ahead, after you're done with that, you grind them up and you press them again. That's type 3 process. The only thing that's kosher for menorah, that's fit for menorah, is type 1 process. You can have any of the 3 kinds of olives, but it has to be type 1 process, because what we need for menorah is we need purity, that it's pure from dregs. It has to be zach, it has to be clear. So type 1 process, where it only was katit, you cut it, there were no dregs. So therefore that's only kind. Even though you can take type 3 olives for that. For menachot, for korban menachot, to put on the mizbeach, that you could use even type 3 process from type 3 olives. Now the Mishnah goes on to explain, it's kind of like a curve. Type 1 process from type 1 olives was the best kind. Type 3 process from type 3 olives was the worst kind. And then kind of like you add up and you say like type 1 process from type 2 olives and type 2 process from type 1 olives is the same level. You get the idea. You add up the number of the process, number of the olives to see what grade it is. Basically you come out with 5 grades of olive oil. All are kosher l'menachot, but the grade doesn't make a difference for the menorah. For the menorah, the main thing is the process. So you can even have a bad grade. That's how it works out. So what do we see from here? We see from here that it could well be that some of the, well, let's see now. There are different hidurim that the poskim say. Some poskim say regarding Shem and Zayit. Remember, the hitter, the preference of Shem and Zayit is because Shabon Na'aseh HaNes, because that's what was used for the miracle. So that's what we want. But now some people have different ideas. Some say that the Shem and Zayit has to be cold press. If you want to fulfill the hidur, you have to get cold press. Cold press, what they call in Eretz Yisrael, they call it katit. Cold press olive oil. Only that's kosher for to have the hidur bonas hanes. What's the logic given for that? Because that's the kind of olive oil they used for the menorah. So therefore, the truth is though that any olive oil we have now, even extra virgin, would be pasul in menorah. It wouldn't qualify for menorah. As you remember, nowadays they do techina, they grind it and they press it, and both those things, they do type 2, type 3. It's already type 3 process, which is pasul for menorah. So there's not any oil we can get today, unless you have in your own backyard olive trees and you know how to do it right, and you can get them and make your own. But we're not going to work anyway. It's not worth the trouble. But there's no way to do it. We know whatever olive oil you get, the best grade olive oil, the best you can get is pasul menorah. So it's impossible to say that and that's always the way they made olive oil. We know from archaeology is how they made olive oil for thousands of years. So when the Kolbo and the Mordechai and this said that there is a hidur, a preference to have olive oil, they didn't mean then that to have the shabon asanes, they didn't mean the olive oil that was kosher l'menorah. They meant the fact that we're using olive oil is enough of a recollection of the miracle, even though it's not kosher l'menorah. Now that's not the same thing as saying we don't go with the Maral Miprag, who says even oil is good, because that's not olive oil. So it's soybean oil, forget about it. We don't say a half zecher. But olive oil is not a half zecher. Olive oil is good, even though it's not kosher l'menorah. Olive oil we need, but even though it's not kosher l'menorah. So to say that we need olive oil as kosher l'menorah, zelonitan, it's impossible to say, because any olive oil we have today wasn't any olive oil they had wasn't kosher l'menorah, and they still held that there was a preference to use olive oil. So that's point number one. Point number two, it said in the name of a chashuv of posek that the olive oil has to be ra'oi l'machal. It can't be shemen l'ma'or. Lamp oil is not fit for this hidur. So you're certainly yotzei, fulfill the mitzvahs we mentioned, but this hidur you're not going to have. Okay? Why not? Where did he come from this logic? Where did he get this idea? Because remember, the olive oil used for the menorah, the Mishnah says, was also kosher l'menachot. Even less grade olive oil was kosher l'menachot. Even shlishi shebeshlishi. But it was kosher l'menachot. Now it's logical to say that since when we put something on a mizbeach, we're, so to speak, putting food for Hashem. Hashem doesn't eat, yeah? But it's as if it's called shulchan gavoa. It's the food of, it's the table of Ribbon Shalom. And the Navi says, Malachi says, Hakriveyu na lefecha techa, that you don't take something that you wouldn't give to the mayor, to the councilman, to go ahead and try to convince him to do what you want. You don't put that before Hashem. So if you're, so to speak, putting something on Hashem's table, it's logical to say that you wouldn't put something there that isn't fit for eating. Makes sense. So since whatever, even though the menorah didn't exactly have that concept, but whatever was fit for the menorah was also fit for the mizbeach. So you see from the Mishnah. So therefore, that's where the logic would come from. Except it's really amazing thing, because the way they describe shlishi sheva shlishi, it's been off the tree for so long. You have to take it off, and it didn't even ripen well on the tree, and then you have to let it rot, so to speak, in the bore, in the pit, and then you have to put it up on the roof. It's been off the tree for days and days and days, and never even ripened properly. And then you got to go ahead and cut it, and press it, and grind it, and press it again. This oil is mechumatz for sure. That's very mechumatz. That's the worst thing you can do to olive oil. They always hurry up the process of the olive oils. It shouldn't get mechumatz. The longer it's off the tree, it gets rancid. So what are you doing? And how is that kosher l'menachol? So two ideas. Yeah, two ideas. Idea number one is that it says that in the time when it used to be, bring the sachim on the mizbeach, pour wine on the mizbeach, then the wine in Yehuda never became chamutz. It never turned into vinegar. The zchut, the merit of bringing on the mizbeach, saved the wine from chimut. So it could be that it was derech neis. Since they brought the sachim, since they put it on the menorah, Hashem saved the oil also from being mechumatz. It doesn't say that, because I'll talk about the wine. I'll talk about the oil. But maybe the same thing. Why not? The same idea. So maybe even though if we tried such a thing, it certainly wouldn't be fit for achilah. But for them, it's fit for achilah. It's possible. Yes, possible. Another thing is, another possibility is to say that Hakabein al doesn't really apply to olive oil in terms of being mechumatz. In terms of being asked why, because olive oil, the Gemara in Brachot says, is mazik. It's dangerous. If a person takes straight olive oil, they so like the color and it looks so good, right? They think it's guava juice or something, and they take it down, it's damaging. You don't even make a bracha on olive oil. If you put olive oil on a salad, it goes together. With bread, something, but olive oil straight, it's mazik. So something that's not supposed to taste good is not a problem. Something that's mazik the body, on such a thing, there's no concept of fit for eating, fit for not. If it's going to ruin the mincha, it's going to ruin the wheat in the mincha, that's a problem. But just on its own, it's not like regular thing to put on the mizbeach, say, oh, this is spoiled. Olive oil is always supposed to be good. If you put wood on the mizbeach, it's not a problem that you can't eat the wood, right? Because you don't eat wood, it's a pashut, right? Now, hey, you can't put on the wood on the mizbeach, you can't eat wood. Well, that's what wood is. Olive oil you also can't eat straight. So maybe he's a local kachbay. I don't know. At any rate, but in any event, wanted to now. But let's think about Hanukah, Neirut Hanukah. That's for the mizbeach, but Neirut Hanukah. Neirut Hanukah, what am I doing with the oil? I'm lighting the oil. Right? Now, if I'm lighting oil, it doesn't really make a difference whether it's mechumatz or not. That's not a bizayon of the mitzvah to do that. The fact that on the mizbeach, when you lit with the oil, it was also kosher l'menachot. That's not that the oil had to be kosher l'menachot, that's just how it was. That was a story, it's story time in the Mishnah. But if I really was only taking oil and putting it for menorah, it doesn't make a difference that it's roy la'achila. So therefore we can't say that it's comparable to the menorah, and therefore I need to use oil that's fit for eating, because really for the menorah I wouldn't need oil fit for eating. It just happened to be was fit for eating because of their special sloop. It doesn't make a difference, really. And also, as we said, if we remember, the zeicher is not something that was fit for the menorah. The zeicher is that it's Shem and Zayit. This is Shem and Zayit, ma'abaya. Just like Shem and Zayit, just like we don't have katit, we don't have that. So others for it also, but l'chara, this complaint that it has to be that lamp oil isn't good enough, don't understand exactly why. It's true, that oil was fit for eating too. But it wasn't fit for eating because that's what the menorah requires, and also, who cares? So it's not fit for the menorah. Even if we say that's so. But it doesn't make a difference. We don't need fit for the menorah, we just need Shem and Zayit. Now, there's one other thing, issue said, in the same of a posting, not to use refined oil. By the way, in Eretz Yisrael, the Shem and Zayit, that's Lama Or, that's for lighting, comes with a special sticker from the Hashgacha. It says on it that the hashgacha is only valid for lighting, not for eating. Why do they write that? Because Jews are Jews, right? I think virgins are also Jews. And what is everyone going to do? They don't care that it says Shem Lama'or. They're just going to buy this at 1/3 the price and use that for the tigun. And use that for frying, because it's cheaper.
they'll say Shem Lamor, they'll get a good bargain on olive oil. They don't care. So that people shouldn't use it for their frying, they put on it a sign that says Hashgacha is only, the importers made them put on a sign, Hashgacha is only valid for the lighting, not for the eating, so people shouldn't try to get a bargain on Shem and Zayim. Yeah, so at any rate, even the Shem Lamor is not so bad. You can try it also to fry with it. See, and by the way, Hashgacha is also good for eating too. They just write it there. Anyway, that's just something they write. Now, one more thing. Refined oil. It doesn't have the taste, and it doesn't have the look. It doesn't have the appearance, and it doesn't have anything. But it's still really olive oil. It's the structure of olive oil. Is that good or not good? So here it's a different svar. It's not anymore that we're saying this isn't fit for the menorah. We're saying that this oil is not called olive oil anymore. You don't call this thing olive oil. Olive oil has a taste, it has this. And here we took away, it's like we did surgery on it until Panim Chadashim Chadashot Balakan, there's something looks something different. Something really different now. So it cannot lose its essence. Even though it's really still olive oil, it cannot lose its essence. What do we say about that? Now, we have certain halachot by tzemer, by wool. It says that if you bleach wool, the Tosefta in Bava Kama says it's a shinui, it's a change, and a ganav is kona with that shinui. But the Mishnah in Chulin talks about Reshit, I guess, the Mishnah to take the first shearings of the sheep and give it to the Kohen, and there it says if you bleach it, it's not a shinui. You still have to give the shearings to the Kohen. If you color it, if you dye it, that's a shinui. But in Hilchos Tumas Negoyim, it says about wool that if you color it, doesn't get the Tumas Negoyim. That's only because it's Hukash Lepishtim, and Pishtim is not generally dyed. Tiferet Yisrael explains. So therefore, Tzemer is also talking about it wasn't dyed. If it's dyed, it doesn't get Tumas Negoyim. But really, we see without this Hakesh, really, Tzemer is still called Tzemer, still called wool for Tumah, even though it's already colored, which is certainly a big shinui and you can't even tell. And certainly for shatnez, we'll put all the shatnez checkers out of business. Say, what do you want from me? I don't have wool here. It's all colored. See? The shinui. It's not semer and pishtim anymore. Lo shamanu davar kazeh. All our colored, dyed beganim certainly is still semer. So we see that even though it went a big change, it's still called semer for all halachot. Yeah, it might be a shinui for Geneva, but it's still called Zemer. So now here also, Shem and Zayda went a big change, yeah? Even if you say you can't learn out from the bleaching, because the bleaching, maybe by Zemer, is not a shinui, because Zemer is white anyway. So you make something whiter than a low shinui. If you take something colored to make it white, if you take olive oil and bleach it, maybe that's a shinui. No matter Kane, let's say so. Let's say a Ganav would become it if he went ahead and refined olive oil. It would be a shinui. But it's still Shem and Zayda. What do I care that you can't recognize? If you can't recognize, still it's all halachot, just like Semer, wool is all halachot. But there's one more halachah here. The Shvut Yaakov says, the Ber Eikdei brings from the Shvut Yaakov. The Shvut Yaakov says that let's say I don't have enough olive oil. I have enough, it's the seventh night Hanukah, I have enough olive oil for 4 candles. So I have an idea. 4 candles of light olive oil. Sorry, again, this goes with Ashkenazi and Hagim here, but 4 candles of light olive oil, and 3 candles I'll light with wax candles. At least 4 candles I'll do right. So Shvut Yaakov says, I'll test it. Don't do it. Why? Because someone coming is going to think that this is 2 people lit. Again, you have to give Ashkenazi and appreciate this. But 2 people lit. This person lit 4, and this person lit 3. That's what someone's thinking, because they're different kind of candles. So don't do it. Because you're going to think you're doing Mahadrim, non-Madrim, with the Ashkenazim, right? And then someone's going to look at it and say it was 2 people, and no one did Madrim. So what do we see from the Shvut Yaakov? We see that when I do a Hidur for Hanukah, since there's a din of Pirsume Nisa, it has to be that other people also can see my Pirsume Nisa. It's not enough that I know I'm Mahadrin, I'm Mahadrin. Other people also have to be able to see it. That's what we see. The Hidur of Chanukah is different. The Loma speak is not enough that I know, other people have to know also. And Gam Tzrichim Ladat. Okay? Now, they also have to know, so over here with our Shem and Zayit, that doesn't have color, and doesn't have taste, and doesn't have seven. Now, the taste and the fragrance, let's say that's not a shinui at all because Shem and Zayit really doesn't have the taste and the fragrance anyway. We just acquired it from the pre, that's why I mentioned in the beginning. So I don't care if you take away what it got from the outside, but maybe the Tzevat really does. So now it doesn't, and no hecker, right? So no, how can you not Yotze? Because even though I know it's Shem and Zayit, but they don't know it's Shem and Zayit, then you have to hit her, and they have to know. On Chanukah B'Sumi Nisa. But the thing is that when they sell refined olive oil, you know what they do at the end? They take a little bit of virgin olive oil and they add it in. It's not 100% refined. Why? Because that gives it again the color and the tzeva, that gives the color and the taste. It gives it back. If people just buy a white olive oil, you'll never sell it to anybody. No one's going to buy that. So they add back, they mix in some virgin olive oil, so then it still has a color. It's a little lighter, but it still looks like olive oil. It still tastes like olive oil. A little bit. So people will buy it then. Yeah? So what do you say to that? Certainly, if I take soybean oil and I mix in a little virgin olive oil, so it has the color of olive oil and the smell of olive oil, that's for sure no good. I can't fool people to think I'm doing a hidur and I'm not doing a hidur. That's achizat einayim. That's not a mitzvah. But here I'm really using olive oil. And the only problem is that people aren't going to know I'm using olive oil. So I take a little olive oil color from olive oil and I mix it in. And now not only am I using olive oil, but they also know I'm using olive oil. So then that would be also okay. One thing that's not pashut is the hardened oils that we have now. There are two ways to harden it. One is you mix it up with wax or something like that. That the tarovet, the mixture now is something that's solid at room temperature. And there, if it's olive oil not, would go basar ro. We go by the majority like everything else. So if it's majority olive oil and minimum wax, it'll still be solid at room temperature. But it'll be mostly olive oil. So maybe you have the hidur. Or they go ahead and they hydrogenate it. Hydrogenate it is a way you make margarine, things like that. You take liquid oil, you add hydrogen to it. You don't like mix it with a spoon, you need a reactor, but you add hydrogen to it, then it becomes harder at room temperature. But that changes also the structure. So now, that for sure isn't good, because it's not olive oil anymore. It's olive oil plus things in a different chemical structure. That's something else. So that's for sure you're not yotzei. Well, let's say, what?
Rove is not like
They're not rove. The whole thing changed. I did surgery, I changed the thing. I made a different molecule. I added hydrogen to a different molecule. No, it's not olive oil anymore. Olive oil isn't like that. Yeah? Just let me finish the thing and then, yeah? Olive oil isn't like that. It's olive oil with hydrogen. It's not like I added some color. It's a different molecule, something shonet. That's why it's hard at room temperature. Olive oil isn't. So that's no good. But even the other thing, let's think about that. The other thing I don't think is also good. Because even if majority is olive oil, but yesh lanu bayakan. Because the person looking at this guy with his hard green things in the cup, Ma'uchoshe, what's he thinking? He doesn't see olive oil. Olive oil is just liquid. What in the world is this? I don't know. So he knows it's olive oil, but I don't know what it is. And for Hidur, we learn from Rishut Yaakov that he has to know what it is. So I don't think either one of how do you certainly Yotzei the mitzvah, that's for sure. If you want the Hidur of olive oil, I don't think that. And I apologize very much. I came to Los Angeles to spend time with my mother. My mother is waiting for me, so I'm going to have to run out. Shalom v'kavod. But Baruch Hashem, you have a beautiful Talmud Chacham here at the Barosh, Rabbi Levi Chaim, who know from Baltimore, and it's a schut to have been here, so I apologize for leaving quickly, but Kibbut Aveim is Doche Kol Dvar. I do have email, if really someone has some question he didn't answer to, Rabbi Levi Chaim can find out my email eventually, and then you can get it.